Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Harne podcast. Sustainability. This is a new and promising field coming up across the globe and especially in Canada. To talk about this, we have with us today Mr. Shreyash Ranjan. Shreyash is working as an ESG data analyst in Montreal right now. On this episode, he tells us how he was able to break into this field and how you can do so as well using the various courses and certifications available in the market right now. Before we begin, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and leave us a comment in the comment section down below. Now sit back and enjoy this conversation with Shreyansh. Let's start, Shreyansh, by talking a little bit about your background and what you're currently working as.
Sure. So I started as an engineer in the electronics and communication field, and then after graduating from engineering college, I started working for uh, SAP. I was start working in the domain of SAP, specifically finance and controlling domain, where I worked with retail and mining clients across North and South America. And thereafter, after working for 5 years, I started my MBA journey at the Schulich School of Business, where I was exposed to the field of sustainability and entrepreneurship. And I explored sustainability a bit in detail there. And once I graduated, I started working for a company in the UK as a consultant for sustainability, where I was helping startups, mostly in the EU region, start their sustainability journey. And then in February this year, I started working as an ESG data analyst for a company here in Montreal. And I'm currently helping them clarify their data management related to ESG, as well as help them strategize more on how to report ESG data better.
That sounds wonderful. But I am curious to know, you have a background in SAP. And then when you started your MBA journey, you said that you paid more attention towards sustainability. So, with no background in sustainability, what was it about sustainability which attracted you?
Sure. So my journey with sustainability mostly started with my journey in Schulich, because I was exposed to great startups which helped me understand the world of sustainability a bit better. So the first startup called Kheti, they were working with smallholder agricultural farmers in India, and there they were building products that are both sustainable as well as socially relevant to the farmers here in India, which use less resources and are also economical. And at the same time, these products are not something that are just made for the purpose of social good. These are products that are actually very efficient. So that changed my perspective for the first time. And then the second startup which I worked with was called Altex, and that startup is currently making biodegradable polyester products. And since I'm coming from an apparel company, I know that polyester is one of the most widely used materials in the apparel industry. And if someone can replace the conventional polyester with a biodegradable polyester that is sustainable, there is an equal opportunity for doing something better for the environment, as well as making profits. So that changed my perspective more. And then I started learning more about sustainability during our MBA second year. And that is when I started my actual MBA journey, actual sustainability journey.
Sure, that all sounds very noble, Shreyansh. But my question to you is, sustainability has been around for decades now. We've been hearing about going green for a lot of time now. So, what is it about current times, which is putting a lot more emphasis towards this domain?
Sure. So, according to me, sustainability movement started uh, a while back, but it couldn't pick up momentum first due to the financial crisis, and then due to lack of demand from the market. So, as you know, that a lot of the products that come into the market are driven by demand. Earlier, there was no demand. The people were not so aware of sustainability or climate change and the impact of climate change on their own lives. But now, people, as with these extreme weather events becoming more and more common, people are getting exposed to the uh, impacts of climate change. So, in a sense, there is more demand from the consumers to shift focus from just making products to making products that are helping the planet as a whole. And it's not just helping the planet, it's also improving the efficiency. So, because technologies are evolving constantly, I believe there was the technologies earlier that came up earlier during the initial sustainability movements were just focusing on saving the planet. But as a business, you also need to make money. So the technologies that are coming up now and the investments that are coming up now are not just meant for saving the planet. They are equally as efficient or even more efficient than the older technologies. And the capital that is being invested in these technologies is being used wisely. So it's not a philanthropy, it's equally making profits for the company as well.
Yeah, and that is a wonderful point, because businesses at the end of the day will not sustain if they don't make profits. And earlier,
Exactly.
like, that answers my question very well, because earlier it was more about philanthropy, but the profit margins were low. But now, with the awareness and even the government stepping in to make some regulations which promote sustainability, the profit margins have increased and businesses are seeing this push towards sustainability. So thank you so much for that. Now, with that being said, Shreyansh, what are some of the fields which are in high demand, or some jobs which are in high demand in sustainability right now?
So I think sustainability itself, it's a very new area that is coming up. However, most of the talent that is coming into the sustainability field is coming from uh, other areas or other people who are interested in the field of sustainability, but they are also bringing in their own skill sets. For example, someone who is interested in sustainability but has a background in finance would go into sustainable finance or could use their skill sets into sustainable finance. So that is one of the major areas that is coming up, sustainable finance, that is managing finance around sustainability projects or providing capital to companies that are uh, involved in the field of sustainability. Then there is the technology creators. So someone who has experience in different kinds of technology. It could be data science. It could be hardcore engineering. uh, People with those skill sets could transfer their skills and apply it to sustainability. So someone from data science could gather all the data that is being generated across the world for with different weather patterns and whatever the company is doing and apply it to create products or services that are actually enhancing the efficiency or productivity of their company or the country or the planet as a whole. And then there would be people who are actually viewing or scrutinizing this data or the activities that the companies are doing. So these could be people from the legal profession Uh, these could be people from the social fields, the NGOs. These could be reporters of data, or uh, reporters of any kind, like even the conventional reporting, as in the newspapers. So these people would be looking at what the companies are doing, what the governments are doing, and how is the society responding to these actions as a whole, and then report a create a story, which is important uh, to be spread as well. So it's important to spread the word as well. So that's why these are the major categories which I think would be essential going forward, at least in the next 10 years. And then I think that anyone who has an interest in sustainability and could apply their skill sets to sustainability would have a good career path.
And that's more like a broader picture as to which domains are in demand right now in sustainability. If you are aware of them, could you list some of the job designations? Like, is there a demand for a consultant, or you yourself are a data analyst right now? So, are there any job designations which are particularly high in demand?
So, sure. So, there would be some job designations like sustainability consultant. So, I would start with that. So, mostly the role of sustainability consultant would involve analyzing the company's position. If you are working for a company, uh, so it would involve analyzing the company's overall position, as in whatever the products the company makes, and putting it in the market, checking the viability or feasibility of that product or the market strategy that the company has, and communicating it to the executive team. Uh, so that is one of the key roles that is coming up. Having said that, even in sustainability consulting, there are broad categories. So one would be related to reporting of sustainability, and the other would be related to hardcore analysis of climate data, and climate change. So once you go into these fields, so analysis of climate data or climate change, this would be something that uh, where you are involved with more people in the who have done environmental, who have a background in environmental science, who have learned something about uh, weather sciences, and they are applying their knowledge to sustainability, and they are doing or performing calculations and bringing out models wherein if there is a 1 degree rise in temperature, 2 degree rise in temperature, they're applying that and doing some scenario analysis. So that would be consultants on the weather front. And then there would be consultants on the reporting front, where you would be consulting with companies and helping them report on different regulations across different countries. So, for example, Canada would have a different set of regulations related to environment. US would have a different set of regulations related to environment, and EU would have a completely different set of regulations. Although the goal for all these regulations uh, is to promote sustainability and avoid greenwashing. So, for people who are not aware of greenwashing, greenwashing is something that uh, companies do, where they tell a story of they are very eco-friendly, but actually they are not. So regulators especially scrutinize companies where they think that they are disclosing that they are very eco-friendly or they are very environmentally friendly, but uh, in reality they are not. So consultants would specifically help them report on these regulations based on different standards. And since it involves, it's a very complex field, not a lot of people are aware of these standards, and the standards are constantly evolving, especially for multinationals. Uh, it's a very in demand field, I would say, for people who are looking to switch careers into sustainability. And the third would be analysis of data. So you could have all kinds of data generated by your company, and then you could take up that data, analyze it, uh, for and look for weaknesses in that data. Weaknesses as in where you are more exposed in terms of climate. Specifically, if there is a 1 degree rise in climate, 2 degree rise in climate, where you could maybe change your strategy, and also create predictive models for that company. So you could predict if this is the change in the market, if this is the change in the climate, you would have this result. So that is another role. The fourth role, and this is one of the final roles that I would be speaking about. So the fourth role would be uh, something very specific to a domain. For example, chemical compliance is something that that is also coming up in this field. It has been there for a long time, but it is in demand again, because you can see that a lot of these companies use water or some or chemicals that are not environmentally good. So companies would usually hire chemical specialists who would then scrutinize or analyze these chemicals, go to the sites, and then report on compliance for the company regarding these chemicals. So again, I would say that this is one of the upcoming fields.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And like you said, it's an upcoming field and this is a new domain. So if one wants to explore whether they want to go into this domain or not, what is the best way to find that out and how can one be prepared? Because as it is a new field, so are there any certifications or any courses which people can take which will help them be better equipped once they enter this?
Sure. So there are certifications for going into the sustainability field. So what I would suggest is, first, you should really think if you want to go into the sustainability field. So you should read about it, learn about it. I know it's a movement and it's something that is in trend, but unless you really want to work in a field uh, that is uh, both philanthropic and driving profits, and it's very uncertain. So you should first go and read about it, read some books. So one of the books that I could recommend is How to Avoid the Climate Disaster by Bill Gates. So it's a very short book. It's a very short book which you could read in probably 1 or 2 days, and it's just a brief overview of uh, what are the changes in climate, how is the technology evolving, and what we could do as an individual to avoid that climate disaster. The other thing is, if you want to check if you are interested in sustainability, or if you want to develop an interest in sustainability, is uh, go to websites related to climate change, which publish regular updates on climate change. So some of these websites you can could find directly by a Google search. One or two that I could recommend is Carbon Brief. They regularly publish articles on sustainability and climate change. So if that is something that interests you, then you should definitely look into this field. Once you have developed an interest, you would be able to single out the professions which I have listed. For example, if you are interested more in the climate space, like analyzing core climate scenarios, then you would venture into that field. However, if you are interested more in the reporting space, you should then go into the reporting certifications. So that's why I would first recommend anyone to research about it and then choose a specific function which aligns with your previous experience as well. So uh, that would be one. So for me, it was clear. As in when I started reading about it, I just knew that I have some engineering experience. I have some experience working in the IT field, and I have done my MBA. So I have been, and that too, we have looked at a lot of financial reports. So I have some of these core ingredients which could drive me towards something in reporting. So I took that and I started working towards certifications in reporting. So one of the certifications was the SASB FSA certifications, that is Fundamentals of Sustainability Accounting System certification. Someone who is working in the finance domain is also aware of the CFA certification, which is also something related. There is a certification from CFA called uh, from the CFA UK Society, specifically in certification, so someone can pursue that as well. And there is a certification from the Risk Institute as well. So basically, their certification is focused on someone who is trying to get into the risk and opportunity space in sustainability. So they would help you identify risks related to climate change and also opportunities in the climate change. And it is a very good certification for someone who's looking to uh, build a knowledge base around climate science and then go from there to risk management. Uh, so these are the three major certifications which I could think of. Then there are other certifications specifically related to domains as well. Uh, I wouldn't go too much into that unless you are uh, interested into climate sciences or analyzing carbon accounting. So there are specific certifications for carbon accounting scope 1, 2, and 3. But you should venture into that only if you are interested in this field. But the certifications that I just mentioned are more specific to ESG reporting.
Sure. Thank you for that answer, Shreyansh. And you are currently working as an ESG data analyst. So, what do you do specifically? If you could explain the job responsibilities you currently have.
Sure. So basically, I get a lot of data from different business units um, because a company is a multinational company and they have different business units, be it sewing, be it yarn spinning, uh, and be it chemicals, or there is a unit for specifically coloring the fabric. So every business unit reports their data. They have specific business responsibilities, and specifically, they would be reporting on what is the amount of emissions that they generate, the amount of water that they consume. Then there would be chemical compliance, as I mentioned. Then there would be other compliance information, uh, amount of plastic that we use for our packaging, the labels that we make. So all of this information is coming to me, and then I would be analyzing. First of all, I would be collecting this data, cleaning it, then analyzing it, and then providing it to the higher management, that is the executive team, which is the decision making team. And they would be looking at this data and making decisions on where they should improve their performance in terms of ESG, because a lot of it is also scrutinized by the investors. So specifically at the end of the year, we collect all this data, organize it, and publish an entire report on what we have done in terms of ESG so far and what are our objectives for the years going forward. So that is my role in brief. And then I would be also working on specific projects for identifying opportunities of ESG performance improvement on a quarterly basis.
Right. And how is the career progression like? What does the career path of ESG analyst look like? I mean, it's a new field, so I understand if the career path is not that clear, but from what you understand right now, what does it look like?
Sure. So, from my understanding, currently the ESG data analyst role is would then morph into something that is ESG data management, where you are actually just managing that data, and managing as in you are also making your own decisions on that data, so you have that autonomy. And then once you have a basic knowledge of how the business operates, you would also be involved in some strategic decision making on where you would be advising the executive team on whatever decisions you should they should be taking or they should be making. Uh, for example, currently there could be a scenario that I create or a scenario analysis that I provide, but however, the decision making mostly lies in with the executive team. But going forward, once the career progresses, there would be some amount of say in that strategic decision making as well. Once you understand the business more, and then uh, once that is done, then there would be something called analyzing more, thinking from a risks and opportunities perspective. So not just strategy, but also taking a governance point of view. So how do you govern this? Uh, how do you govern the ESG data? How do you connect it to anything that is happening in the industry? And how do you connect it to something that is happening across the world? So it's a global movement. So how do you connect it to the movement across the world? So that is something that would be the third step.
Right. Thank you. And you mentioned earlier that you are working out of Montreal. So across the globe, there are some regions which are more sustainability aware versus others which are not so sustainability aware, not because they don't want to be, but the compulsions are like that. So specifically, what I know is Europe is much more advanced in terms of sustainability compared to the North American market. In Canada, we have a more European culture in Quebec. So, is that the reason why you chose to work in Montreal? How are the opportunities in, say, Toronto or Vancouver versus in Quebec? What is the scene over there?
Sure. So one of the reasons I chose Quebec was I wanted to uh, explore more of the Canadian culture. So it is not specifically related to sustainability, although Montreal is one of the best places to be if you want to be in the sustainability field. And I would say that even the upcoming conferences, most of them, especially related to the ones organized by the UN, are being organized in Montreal. So if you're someone who's looking for starting a career in sustainability, Montreal is a great place to be. But specifically, my decision to be in Montreal or in Quebec is it is one of the most unique parts of Canada, and I personally wanted to explore it a bit more. So that was my decision. But having said that, across Canada, I could comfortably say that across Canada, you could be anywhere, be it Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, Calgary. Uh, there is high demand for sustainability. There's high demand for sustainability professionals. So uh, there's no shortage of opportunities in either of these regions. It's just that ecosystem in different regions is evolved differently. Uh, More so in Montreal and even Toronto as well. But uh, Vancouver, Calgary all have their own ecosystems. But I would definitely recommend someone who is pursuing a career in sustainability to look for opportunities in Toronto or Montreal, because there are a lot of companies who are very much invested in this space.
Sure, thank you. And like you said, you are working in Montreal, and it's a great place because all the conferences and latest gatherings are happening over there. Have you experienced any language barrier because French is the predominant language spoken in Montreal? So, have you had any experiences like that?
Sure. So not personally in my work. My work uh, uh, is mostly done in English, although there is uh, all the communication is also done in French as well. But in my work, I didn't have any issues with the language. However, since you are living in that city, it's important to at least know a few words of that language. So, yes, there are certain times that when I do face challenges related to the language, but uh, it's I would say it's mostly because I am in the initial stages of my stay at Montreal, and also earlier I didn't know a lot of French words. Now I'm getting to know them a bit more. But uh, I would definitely recommend anyone who's coming to Montreal to learn at least a few words, because it is important and it's a part of the culture. So uh, you are missing out on a lot of good things if you don't try to learn about the culture or you don't learn the language. So yeah.
Yeah, that's good to know, Shreyansh. And from our conversation, what I could gather is that sustainability is a field which is uncertain for sure because it is a new field right now, but it is also a field where one can make a lot of impact. So you will be able to see the impact of your work much faster rather than in some other domain which is already established. So, with
Yeah.
that in mind, if someone is considering a career in sustainability right now, trying to explore, maybe thinking of moving into that domain, what would be your advice to that person?
Sure. So I would suggest that start with focusing on your core skills. And by core skills, I mean that whatever you have gathered in terms of your MBA or your graduation, start with that. Then all then put your experience in perspective wherever you have experience. If you have an experience in IT, then you could help in the IT domain of sustainability. If you have some experience in hardcore engineering making products, then you could help with that in sustainability. So first identify that core skill set, and once you have that, then identify which area of sustainability do you want to go into. And then third, I would recommend is identify the industry that you want to go into. Uh, so for a lot of us, it is very difficult to switch industries. Uh, so I would definitely recommend looking up for the industry that you want to be in, or reading up on the industry that you want to be in, because if you are someone who's transitioning from India to Canada, or from another country to Canada, the working style of that industry may change as well. So even if you are from that industry, I would recommend that you talk to the people in that industry, gather some insights on what they actually do, and then uh, make your decision around that.
Sure. And on that note, you said to reach out to people in that industry. So are there any networking tips or any resume building skills which people, specifically the employers, look on your resume when they are shortlisting candidates for a job?
Sure. So, Raghav, as you mentioned, uh, from what I gather, employers look for impact. So, if you have made an impact, that is what the employers are looking for. And from my experience, even if you don't have a lot of experience in sustainability, uh, you need to build that credential. So one of the credential building paths is taking a certification. Because the employer needs to know that you are actually serious in this field, and it's not just a phase that you are following a trend. So, although it is not mandatory to have a lot of experience in sustainability, the employers need to know that you are serious about it. So, you could either demonstrate it through some certifications, the ones that I mentioned, the FSA, the CFA, or the one in risk management or carbon accounting, any one of those. The other path could be you could actually work with someone in the sustainability field or startups in the sustainability field and demonstrate that on your resume. And that also gives you a good story to tell, because once the employers ask you about how your experience relates to your current the new job role, you could build a story around that and communicate it to the employer. So that would be the second part that you could use. And if you are someone who already has experience in a specific domain, as I mentioned, like chemicals, someone who is already a chemical engineer just needs to learn about the compliance in that field. So demonstrate that core skill set, that the company who's looking for someone in chemical compliance, but I have a very good experience in chemicals, managing chemicals or chemical engineering. I just need to uh, realign my focus in terms of sustainability. So that would be a main story point.
Yep. Thank you.
And in
Those
terms
are,
of network,
yeah, yeah, go
sorry,
ahead, go ahead.
in terms of networking, again, I would suggest, because it's a very uncertain field, people would recommend different things. But one of the main things that I came across with all my networking talks was uh, build your resume around your core skill sets. That is what you have already done in the past, because that is important. That is what the employers would mostly look at. And then you have to demonstrate your seriousness around sustainability somehow. So these are the two core areas which networking, what I got from my networking with different folks in different industries. And then the second area would be you look at what kind of work that they are doing in their particular industry. So is it something that you are interested in? Uh, and if that is something that you are interested in, what are the skill sets that are required to work in that field?
Yeah, and it's even better if you possess some transferable skills so that you
Yeah,
find that common ground which can act as an
yeah,
icebreaker. So if you have that and you reach out to a person like that, then the chances are higher that that person will speak to you. Those are wonderful
sure.
tips, Shreyansh. Thank you so much for them. I know you have a lot of passion for entrepreneurship as well, but the time we
Yeah,
have is limited on this episode. So I hope you'll join us
yeah,
again for a
sure.
talk on entrepreneurship. It was a pleasure speaking with you today and wish you all the
Same here,
best.
Raghav. Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you liked that video. If you did, please press the like button, subscribe to our channel, and leave us a comment down below. Until the next time, this is me, Raghavendra Harne, signing off. Take care.